Click. Darkness. You are standing at the bottom of your stairs and you have exactly 5 seconds to reach your bedroom. Your rational brain knows the house is locked. Your logic says you are completely safe, but your body does not care about your logic. It starts with a groan from a shifting floorboard, then a sudden icy chill that feels like the air itself just got heavier. Before you can process it, your autonomic nervous system pulls the fire alarm. Your heart rate doubles. Adrenaline floods your bloodstream. The tiny muscles at the base of your hair follicles contract, sending a wave of goosebumps rushing up your spine. You haven't seen anything, you haven't heard a threat, but every cell in your body is screaming a single terrifying command. Run. You don't walk, you sprint. You scramble up the steps in a breathless panic, leap into bed, and yank the blanket over your head. And the moment you are under that thin, fragile sheet of cotton, you feel safe. Your breathing slows. The panic recedes. But as you lie there, staring at the ceiling, you have to ask yourself, what just happened? Why does a modern, civilized human in a secure, locked home succumb to a primitive survival panic? Why does your brain actively generate the physical sensation of a presence staring at you when it knows you are alone? And why, of all things, does a thin blanket make you feel completely invincible? To find the answer, we have to travel back millions of years, look at how the human eye was physically redesigned, and meet the ancient cowards who gave us our DNA. To understand why we feel like we are being watched in the dark, we first have to look at how we detect eyes when the lights are actually on. Humans are incredibly, uniquely visual creatures. In the daylight, our brains possess a beautifully precise, highly specialized neural network dedicated purely to gaze perception. It is centered in a deep groove of the brain called the superior temporal sulcus, specifically in a region neuroscientists call the gaze-following patch. This network is so sensitive that specific brain cells fire only when someone is looking directly at us, and they instantly turn off if their gaze shifts by even a fraction of a degree. But to make this highly advanced tracking system work, evolution had to completely redesign our actual anatomy. If you look at almost any other mammal or primate on the planet, their eyes are heavily camouflaged. They have dark irises and dark sclera, the white of the eye. A chimpanzee, a wolf, or a mountain lion has dark-colored eyes because they are predators or prey. They want to hide where they are looking. Advertising their gaze would give away their next move. Humans, however, are different. We are social, cooperative hunters. We developed a massive, bright white sclera that wraps entirely around our pupils. Our eyes are designed to be a giant neon sign, broadcasting our attention, intentions, and emotions to everyone around us. Because we can easily see the contrast between the dark pupil and the white background, we can track a friend's gaze across a crowded room without them saying a single word. Our brain's gaze detection network is an anatomical masterpiece, but it has one catastrophic vulnerability. It requires light to function.
When you flip that light switch down and step into pitch-black darkness, your visual gaze detection system is instantly blinded. It can no longer track contrast. It can no longer read the room. And in the logic of evolution, a blinded sensor is a highly dangerous state. That is the exact moment an older, deeper, and far more primitive survival program takes over your brain. This program is called the Hyperactive Agency Detection Device, or H.A.D.D. Coined by cognitive scientists, H.A.D.D. is a built-in mental module that assumes agency, meaning a mind, an actor, or a living threat behind completely random, non-living events. If a leaf rustles in the wind, a child might think the tree is alive. If a house creaks as the temperature drops, you might feel a sudden spike of anxiety. H.A.D.D. is your brain's default setting. It is an automatic mind detector that operates on a hair trigger. Why would our brains evolve to be so jumpy? Why would we develop a system that constantly screams fire when there is no smoke? The answer lies in a foundational concept of evolutionary biology known as error management theory. Imagine you're an early human walking through the ancestral savanna at dusk. You hear a sudden rustle in the tall grass next to you. In this moment of uncertainty, you can make one of two errors. First, you can make a false positive. You assume the rustle is a hidden predator, so you panic, throw your spear, and run away. It turns out the rustle was just a gust of wind. The cost of this mistake is incredibly low. You lost a little bit of energy, your heart rate spiked, and you felt a bit silly. Second, you can make a false negative. You assume the rustle is just the wind, so you keep walking calmly. It turns out the rustle was a hunting leopard. The cost of this mistake is absolute. You are eaten, and your genetic line ends right there. When the costs of these two mistakes are radically unequal, natural selection does something fascinating. It doesn't design a brain that is balanced and rational. Instead, it deliberately designs a brain that is biased toward making the cheap mistake. Over millions of years of evolution, the brave, rational humans who assumed the grass was just the wind were systematically weeded out of the gene pool. You are the direct descendant of the hypervigilant, paranoid, easily terrified humans who assumed every shadow was a monster. Our brains did not evolve to find the objective truth. They evolved to keep us alive, and keeping us alive means operating on the smoke detector principle. If your home has a smoke detector, you want it to be hypersensitive. You want it to go off when you burn your toast, even though there is no real danger. It's annoying, but you accept those false alarms because you know that if there ever is a real house fire in the middle of the night, that oversensitive alarm will save your life. H.A.D.D is your brain's evolutionary smoke detector, and in the dark, your brain actively dials its sensitivity up to maximum.
When you enter a dark room, your brain is starved of sensory data. It cannot see the corners of the room or the stairs behind you. Because it has no data to prove you are safe, it defaults to the safest biological assumption: there's a threat nearby. To keep you on high alert, your brain works in tandem with another cognitive bias called pareidolia, our instinctual tendency to see faces and human shapes in completely random patterns. In the daylight, coat hanging on the back of a door is just a coat, but in the dark, your hyperactive mind detector takes that ambiguous shape and instantly morphs it into a crouching intruder. Your brain does this by actively generating the physical sensation of presence. It floods your body with adrenaline, dilates your pupils, and increases your sensitivity to sound. That creepy, prickly feeling on the back of your neck isn't your body detecting a ghost. It is your autonomic nervous system preloading your muscles for a fight-or-flight response. Your brain is artificially producing fear to force you to get out of the danger zone as quickly as possible. The stair sprint is a beautifully coordinated, highly successful evolutionary escape plan. And what about that thin, flimsy cotton blanket that suddenly makes the fear go away? Physically, a blanket offers zero defense. A predator could easily bite through it, but psychologically, the blanket is a masterpiece of sensory engineering. By wrapping yourself in a blanket, you're creating a tactile boundary layer. The blanket blocks cool drafts, dampens ambient noise, and keeps your own body heat trapped close to your skin. By stabilizing your immediate sensory environment, the blanket removes the micro-stimuli, the tiny temperature drops and soft rustling sounds that feed your hyperactive threat detection system. It silences the smoke detector by removing the smoke. There's a deeper, comforting truth sitting underneath this daily staircase panic. We often look at our modern anxieties, our phobias, and our irrational fears of the dark as design flaws. We think of them as weaknesses or glitches in our psychology, but they aren't glitches, they're features. For 99% of human history, the dark was genuinely, terrifyingly dangerous. Our ancestors didn't have steel locks, double-paned windows, and security systems. They had open caves and fragile shelters, surrounded by predators that could see in the pitch-black night. The fear of the dark was a highly adaptive, life-saving mechanism that kept our ancestors close to the fire and kept them alive long enough to pass their genes down to us. When you turn off the lights and feel that sudden, desperate urge to run up the stairs, you aren't being foolish. You are experiencing a living echo of human history. That prickly, uncomfortable sensation on your neck is a protective shield forged over millions of years of survival, keeping watch when your eyes cannot. Your brain isn't failing you when it makes you run. It is simply honoring an ancient, unbroken pact of survival. It is making absolutely sure you make it to the top of the stairs. Sleep well.